Certainly, the fate of the colonized around the world would not have been pleasanter. Had Britain succumbed in 1940 to the Nazi offer, "Keep your empire and we will keep Europe," then there is no evidence that Hitler would have renounced his obsessive desire to sweep Jewry from Europe. Nor is there much evidence that he would have kept his word. He would have been in a better position to defeat Stalin, it is true, yet a longer, even bloodier conflict would surely have followed, since a total German invasion of European and Asian Russia seems impossible. Atomic weaponry would have become real inside Germany, at least as quickly, probably more quickly, as it did at Los Alamos. And the British, linked to a fading imperial past, but without the markets or industry to sustain or protect the old glory, we would have crumbled into a vassal state, one act of appeasement followed by another, as Churchill predicted. There would have been no Atlantic alliance, and America would have gone her own way, probably forced to accept a world divided into zones of influence, Nazi, Russian, Japanese, and so on. For all the horrors of the past century, this does not seem an appetizing alternative. So, for this writer, the wars for the protection of democracy were real conflicts which could not have been sidestepped, and which, once begun, had to be won. My last book described what I called, with only some journalistic flippancy, the defeat of politics by shopping. That is, the ideologies were trounced by consumerist materialism. It takes a lot of politics, of course, to set up and maintain a market-dominated and market-mimicking way of life. It was not inevitable. There were other roads not taken. This book describes what happened before the triumph of the market, or shopping, when it seemed the world would be shaped by politics. It was no paradise. If these were the decades when modern Britain was born, it was a bloody and painful birth. The people whose blood was spilt and who experienced the pain looked different from us, smelt different, and thought differently. But in the majority of cases they were our close relatives. Their idealism, their mistakes, even their hobbies and entertainments have plenty to teach us still. Like the previous book, this one accompanies a BBC Two television series. In both cases, I wrote the book first, relying on my own research, and so the mistakes really are mine. Then, working with friends and colleagues, we reshaped the material to form the documentaries. The films and the book are not the same, however. There are many stories, judgments, and characters in these pages that do not appear on screen, and there are a few points covered in the TV series that are not described here, usually because they were highlighted by one of the directors or researchers. But this was written as a book, not as something to accompany something else. My only guiding principle is that I have kept in what is most important, and what interested me most. The last few years have been grim ones for patriotic people in Britain, when our politics have seemed embarrassing, and we've almost drowned in a dirty puddle of mutual recrimination. The past was not so totally different. What we need most is perspective. My dream is that by returning to our not-so-distant history, I might remind readers why, with all its faults, this is a lucky place to be living in, and one we can be quietly proud of. Andrew Marr, June 2009. Part 1. Living in the Future, 1900 to 1914. Don't worry, darling. No, baby, don't you fret. We're living in the future, and none of this has happened yet. Bruce Springsteen, Living in the Future, 2007. Edwardians. The shock. They are very far and strangely near. Almost nobody is still alive who remembers Edwardian Britain. To that extent, it has become proper history. Its rigid class distinctions, its imperial pride, its strange ideas from theosophy to racial purity, are the vivid coral of a lost world.